So basically, the United States was trying to get farmers to believe that them going overseas would be a great thing because farmers were not even making that much money, and it was like, oh, this is an opportunity for y'all to make more money, da 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 da. Such an appeal would be especially strong if the expansion looked like an act of generosity, helping a rebellious group overthrow foreign rule, as in Cuba. By 1898, Cuban rebels had been fighting their Spanish conquerors for 3 years in an attempt to win independence. By that time, it was possible to create a national mood for intervention. It seems that the business interests of the nation did not at first want military intervention in Cuba. American merchants did not need colonies or wars of conquest if they could just have free access to markets. This idea of an open door became the dominant theme of American foreign policy in the 20th century. It was more a sophisticated approach to imperialism than the traditional empire building of Europe. William Appleman Williams, in The Tragedy of American Diplomacy, says, "This national argument is usually interpreted as a battle between imperialists led by Roosevelt and Lodge and anti-imperialists led by William Jennings Bryan and Carl Schurz. It is far more accurate and illuminating, however, to view it as a three-cornered fight. The third group was a coalition of businessmen, intellectual, and politicians who opposed traditional colonialism and advocated instead a policy of open door through which America's preponderant economic strength would enter and dominate all underdeveloped areas of the world." However, this preference on the part of some business groups and politicians for what Williams calls the idea of informal empire without war was always subject to change. If peaceful imperialism turned out to be impossible, military action might be needed. Popular support for the Cuban Revolution was based on the thought that, like the Americans of 1776, they were fighting a war for their own liberation. There seems to have been another kind of fear. The US government, however, the conservative product of another revolutionary war, had the power and profit in mind as it observed the events in Cuba. Neither Cleveland, president during the first years of the Cuban Revolt, nor McKinley, who followed, recognized the insurgents officially as belligerents. Such legal recognition would have enabled the US to give aid to the rebels without sending an army. But there may have been fear that the rebels would win on their own and keep the US out. Always an ulterior motive. Always. There seems to have also been another kind of fear. The Cleveland administration said a Cuban victory might lead to the establishment of a white and black republic. Since Cuba had a mixture of the two races, and the Black Republic might be dominant. They didn't want black people in the United States getting an idea. They didn't want white and black people to get an idea that they could coexist together, especially the poor white and the poor black people. Again, this is a through line throughout every single chapter that we have read, whether it's within the United States or it's overseas. American government and the elite were terrified of black people and white people, whether they spoke English, Spanish, French, Creole, it did not matter. They did not want white and black people mixing. That was a nightmare scenario for them, because if we came together, everything was possible. And the whole point is that they didn't want things to be possible. I'm laughing to keep myself from crying. It's not funny. This idea was expressed in 1896 in an article in the Saturday Review by a young and eloquent imperialist whose mother was American and whose father was English, Winston Churchill. A grave danger represents itself. 2/5 of the insurgents in the field are Negroes. These men would, in the event of success, demand a preponderant share in the government of the country, the result being, after years of fighting, another Black Republic.